Vlogception. So today I am going to be doing my January wrap-up video. I'm sorry that it's coming to you a bit late. I was a bit, and by a bit I mean a lot, under the weather last week. I don't think it was the flu because I never had a fever, but I just had like a really awful head, nose, throat cold kind of thing. You can probably still hear it now in my voice. Anyway, that kind of threw off my reading game, unfortunately, and I didn't finish all the books on my January TBR that I intended to. So I just wanted to spend as much time as I could reading the books that I did read, which is why this month's wrap-up is a little bit late. So without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and get into the books that I've read in January. The first book I picked up in January was Shatter Me by Tahereh Mafi. Technically, I started this in December, but I was only like 100 pages in, so I finished it in January and I was fine with that. This is a YA dystopian that follows a teenage girl named Juliet, and Juliet has the power to kill people with her touch. Of course, she doesn't want to do this. This is the last thing that she wants to do, but when the government in this dystopian world discovers her power, they want to use her to their advantage. For those of you who don't know, I am rereading the Shatter Me trilogy in anticipation of the new book Restore Me, which is coming out in March. I have to be honest, rereading this was a bit cringe because there was just so many moments, particularly between Adam and Juliet, that were just like, I've had enough. Stop, please, stop. I think I gave this 3.5 out of 5 stars. It just wasn't as great on, you know, a reread, which happens. I still really enjoyed the story. The writing I liked a lot, though there were times when I felt like it just got too lyrical and poetic and it kind of got annoying, but maybe that's just me, I don't know. The next book that I picked up in January is Every Heart a Doorway by Shauna Maguire. This is the first book in the Wayward Children series, and I had not originally planned to reread this book in January, but the third book was coming out in the beginning of January, and I just found myself wanting to re-enter the world and wanting to just, you know, rediscover the stories before continuing on with the series, so that's what I did. For those of you who don't know, this is just, it's such a magical series. I think that it could be considered either young adult or adult. It would be more of an adult, young adult, if that makes sense, but it is fantasy and like magical realism. The story follows a girl named Nancy who has recently left this magical world where she felt like she was finally in her element. She was where she belonged, and she was taken away from that place. So she then goes to attend a school specifically for children who have entered these magical, mystical lands and then have been taken from them. The majority of these teenagers just want to go back to their lands, Nancy included, and this is kind of their account of just dealing with that pain of losing someplace where they felt they finally belonged. It also has like a murder mystery interwoven into it, which is really cool. I mean, I love murder mysteries, and this one is incredibly unique. The series also has incredible representation of asexual characters, trans characters, gay characters, lesbian characters. It's just really good time. I of course gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Shauna Maguire, her writing is just, I love it so much. Which leads into my next 2 books. The first one being Down Among the Sticks and Bones, also by Shauna Maguire. This is the second book in the Wayward Children series, but it's actually a prequel to Every Heart a Doorway. It follows 2 characters that we meet in Every Heart a Doorway, Jack and Jill, and it shows what it was like in their house growing up and the magical land that they entered, which is the Moors, which it's like they entered a horror movie, which to me would be terrifying and amazing all at the same time. This is actually my favorite book in this series. Of course, I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. The next book that I picked up in January is Beneath the Sugar Sky, also by Shauna Maguire. This is the 3rd and newest addition to the Wayward Children series. Like I said, I ended up rereading the series to prepare for this one, and I can't really say too much about it because it spoils the first book, but it follows a character, follows the daughter of a character who dies in the first book. And it's very weird and it's very interesting, and it takes us back to those characters in the first book, which I really enjoyed. I did like this one a lot, but I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars because while the writing is just as good as it's always been, I felt like the plot was too easy, and I've never felt like that before. Like, these books are short, they're all novella length. But with the other 2, they felt like perfectly wonderful, well-rounded stories that though I wanted more, it wasn't necessary. There was nothing really more that I felt needed to be done in each story for the book to be considered complete. With this story, I felt like everything was too easy and it just moved way too fast. I just feel like Sean McGuire could have developed it a lot better. I mean, it just didn't read as well as the other two did for me. So 4 out of 5 stars. I'm not disappointed in it by any means, and I'm definitely going to continue the series. I'm hoping and praying that it does continue, but this one just did not measure up to the other two in my opinion. The next book that I picked up in January is a novella, and it was Destroy Me by Tahereh Mafi. This is the novella that is between Shatter Me and Unravel Me, and it's told from Warner's perspective, which is a character who's sort of the antagonistic villainy type character in the first book, but you get a lot more insight to him and you get to see why he is the way he is and basically learn that not everything is black and white in this world. And I love that about it. Moving on, the very next book that I read was Unravel Me by Tahereh Mafi, the second book in the Shatter Me trilogy. I just have to say that this book is 100 times better than the first book, and it's amazing to see the transformation of Tahereh Mafi's writing, and the characters is just so much better. It's so much better. It's really fun, it's really sexy, and I really enjoyed this one. 5 out of 5 stars. The final book that I picked up in January is Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy by Cassandra Clare and a bunch of other authors who contributed with her on this bind up. If you don't know, The Mortal Instruments, which is the series that this is a spin-off from, is a young adult urban fantasy, and I read those books and I really enjoyed them. And I read the prequel, The Infernal Devices, and I really enjoyed those as well. So I obviously wanted to continue on with the spin-off, The Dark Artifices. But before I could start that trilogy, I had to read this bind up, this novella bind up. And I'm so glad that I did. I had known for years that people had highly recommended it. I was so impressed by this bind up because when it comes to short story collections, I usually don't like all of them. I like a few and I'm like, okay, you know, whatever. With this collection, all of these stories were 4 or 5 stars. Maybe like 1 or 2 was like a 3. But even so, even though I didn't totally like enjoy the plot of those particular short stories, there was information gained and insight into characters that was really interesting and that I loved learning about. Just like everyone else says, I feel like this is a really essential. I feel like this is very much needed if you want to go into reading The Dark Artifices. And it just made me even more excited to start that trilogy, which I'm going to be doing very soon. I really love this a lot. In the comments below, I would love for you guys to tell me if you have read any of these books, and if you have, what you thought of them. Do you agree with my thoughts? Do you disagree with my thoughts? What's going on there? I'd also love to know what your favorite read of January is. Alright guys, so that's all for this video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one.